Nothing is ever going to change. Nothing is ever going to change. Tomorrow is going to look exactly like today, which looks exactly like yesterday, which looked like the day before, the week before, the month before, the year before. There's really no point in dreaming about anything different, about something better, about something brighter. You know what to expect at this point, and that's all you're going to get. What you're experiencing now, life as you know it, well, that's just the way life is for you, now and forever. For shepherds, keeping watch over their flocks near the little town of Bethlehem, everything I just said was true. There weren't a lot of surprises in their lives, and not a lot of options either. Shepherding in those days, it wasn't a career you chose, but rather it was a life you were born into. Dad tended sheep. Granddad tended sheep before him. Great-grandpa tended sheep before that. So from an early age, you were taught how to feed the sheep, how to lead them to water, what predators to watch out for, and all the rest. And eventually, when the time came, your father's flock became your flock. It was all written in stone, and there was really no altering that plan. What's more, a shepherd's daily routine didn't change much from day to day. Make sure the sheep have food, make sure they have plenty to drink, make sure none of them wanders too far off. Because after all, if one goes missing, you're going to have to leave the 99 to go chase after the one. Even a carpenter's kid knows that. A moment of excitement was not really something you wanted as a shepherd, because excitement pretty much only came when your sheep were lost or they were in danger. So for the most part, every day was just like the one that came before it. Suburban folks are used to the rhythm of a 9-to-5 workday, with pretty clear boundaries on when work begins and when work ends. But anybody here who's ever farmed can tell you that the rural life of a shepherd was quite a bit different from that. You woke up with the sheep, you were by their side all day long, and when the time came for your head to hit the pillow, it wasn't a pillow you were resting on, but the wool of your sheep. You didn't get to flip a switch and move into shepherd mode for 8 hours. You just were a shepherd at all times. It never shifted. It never stopped. It never changed. It wasn't a bad life per se, but it wasn't a glamorous one either. You were outdoors 24 hours a day most days. You smelled like livestock. You scraped together enough money selling wool to keep your children fed, but it never felt like enough. In short, the life of a shepherd, it wasn't the pastoral, precious moments picture that we imagine. It wasn't all green pastures and still waters. It was boring. It was drudgery. It was a slog. But hey, that's life. It's better to get used to it than to waste time dreaming of something more. Well, the Bible tells us that the shepherds here in Luke chapter 2, they were doing their work during a pretty unique time in the history of that region. It was the days of Caesar Augustus, the first monarch of what we now call the Roman Empire. having risen to power after the assassination of Julius Caesar, he consolidated his power over time until finally the Roman Senate named him commander-in-chief for life, the imperator of the empire. Under his rule, the Roman region expanded dramatically, ranging all the way from Egypt to modern-day France to modern-day Slovakia. And it was under Augustus that the Roman nation really became an empire. Not that any of that meant all that much to a group of Jewish shepherds, because geopolitical shifts weren't especially relevant to them. Before the Romans came onto the scene, there had been the Greeks. Before them, the Persians. Before them, the Babylonians. All that ever seemed to change for the shepherds was who you paid your taxes to, who you wrote the check to at the end of the month. Caesar Augustus wasn't all that likely to make a Bethlehem shepherd's life much better or much worse than Alexander before him or Cyrus before that. Roman, Hasmonean, Babylonian, what difference did it really make? Nothing ever really changed. Well, I suppose there was a little bit of change just around the edges, at least during this season that Luke chapter 2 is describing, because Caesar had decided that the entire Roman region, the entire Roman world, every part of that far-flung empire was to be counted, to be registered in a census. Our nation's constitution, it mandates that we be counted every 10 years. For the Romans, it was whenever Caesar said so. And so the shepherds, they had surely noticed this influx of people coming in to Bethlehem. All these folks from different parts of Judea making their journey back to be counted. The town was a busy place. Every home bustling, every inn full, crackling with that fusion of excitement and anxiety that comes when you get a whole bunch of travelers all in one place. Think about the gate at an airport right before departure. That's probably what Bethlehem felt like at this time. The shepherds, of course, they didn't need to travel back to their ancestral home. They were already there. Nobody from their family had gone anywhere for generations. So while Bethlehem was this flurry of activity, the fields outside it were normal. The buzz of insects, the light of the moon, the warmth of the fire. A silent night, just like all the ones before, just like all the ones to come. The same old, same old. Until, that is, the night exploded with light. Until an angel of the Lord, an envoy from heaven, appeared before them, knocking them to their knees in terror. Until that divine messenger delivered his matchless message, his good news of great joy for all the people, that just a few miles away, Messiah had come, that Christ was born, that the anointed one God had promised had been delivered to his people to bring them salvation, to bring them deliverance. And before those words were even comprehended, before the shepherds even understood what it was they had heard, all at once the sky split open. Heaven poured out upon them. Silence gave way to cacophonous praise. Darkness was swallowed up by light. The ordinary was transfigured into the holy, and stillness was overwhelmed by glory. And for a few dazzling minutes, earth and heaven were one. Everything was different. Everything was new. Everything was changed right before their eyes. And then, silence. Just the sheep snoring softly, unaware anything had happened. Just the grass beneath their feet, just the stars above their head. The world was back as it was, as it always had been, as it always would be. Right? It's easy to think that, of course. To think that that night in Bethlehem was less than what it appeared to be. Maybe one or two of the shepherds themselves doubted what they'd just witnessed. Chalk it up to a hallucination, to a dream, to a misunderstanding. Rationalize it, explain it away. Because after all, the world before them looked identical, unchanged from the one that they'd known just before the angel's message. And after all, what does a baby born in Bethlehem have to do with us anyway? It's a nice story. I'll give you that. Virgin birth, no room in the inn, manger bed. It works nicely as a fairy tale. The kind of story that you tell children before bedtime. But what does it matter? Why should I care? What does it mean to me? Well, whether they had answers to those questions or not, these shepherds, they wanted to know more. They wanted to see for themselves. And so Luke chapter 2 tells us that they hurried off to Bethlehem to see Mary and Joseph and the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes lying in a manger, just as the angel had said. They'd seen the heavenly host, and now they saw the King of Heaven, the Christ child. And verse 17 tells us that when they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child. They went and told everybody what it was they'd seen. They went and told everybody what it was they had heard. They went and told everybody that Christ was born. The same invitation that Jesus himself would one day issue after his resurrection applied also at his birth. First, come and see, and then go and tell. Come and see, then go and tell. And that's exactly what they did. And then when it was all over, they went back. Back to their fields, back to their work, back to their sheep. But something was different now. The shepherds returned, verse 20 says, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen. They went back touched by the holy. The work was the same. Their prospects were the same. Heck, the sheep were the same. In a way, nothing had really changed for them. But in a far more significant way, everything had changed. Now, maybe for the first time, they had reason to hope. You know, it's been more than 2,000 years since that night in Bethlehem. But every year at this time, we are afforded the opportunity to experience the same kind of transformation that the shepherds did. You may be coming into this Advent season looking at a world that seems like it never changes. A world where it feels like the rules are fixed, like the game is rigged, like you have no opportunity to change things for yourself. You may be looking at the world with the same kind of cynicism, with the same kind of hopelessness that surely characterized these men. You may be looking at where you were last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and wondering, why am I not making any more progress? Why do things not look any brighter for me? You may be looking at the state of the world around you and saying, why do things seem uglier and meaner and more cynical than they used to be? Why are my children, why are my grandchildren growing up in a world that seems darker than the one I grew up in? You may be wondering, is there any reason to hope? We can be grateful this morning for this story. We can be grateful for the reminder that God is with us. For the reminder that the Father sent his Son to bring us that hope that we so desperately need. That the Father sent his Son not as a conquering king, but as a lowly baby to deliver us. That message of salvation to come, that good news of great joy was not for only a subset of people, that it wasn't only for the wealthy and the powerful and the exalted, but that this was good news of great joy for all people, starting with shepherds watching over their flocks by night. We have reason to hope today because Christ is born. We have reason to hope today because Christ has come. We have reason to hope today because Christ is coming soon. Come quickly, Lord Jesus, to set all things right and to make all things new. Today we live in this interim between the Advents, this time between the birth of our Savior and his return. This time when we have seen our salvation play out upon a cross, when we have seen our salvation ensured through an empty tomb, and when we wait with bated breath to see his glory cover the earth. So as we look at this world around us, and we wonder, what reason have we to hope? What reason have we to look forward to anything? Is anything really going to change? My invitation to you this morning is come and see. Come before the manger. Come before the cross. Come before the empty tomb of Christ the Lord. Come and see. Because hope has a name. Emmanuel. God with us. Come and see. And in this season of hope, go and tell.